A new lower secondary education curriculum was launched in February 2020 with the aim of meeting the learners' needs, especially in regard to skills training and enhancement. The need to review curriculum was overdue. It had not been revisited since the colonial education system was introduced. The old curriculum was channeling out graduates with no practical skills to meet new demands in the labor market. The National Curriculum Development Center made adjustments in the teaching subjects for the lower secondary. For example, teaching subjects were reduced from 43 to 21. It aims at providing to the learners 21st century skills, which include critical thinking, creativity, collaboration or teamwork, communication, information literacy, and ICT, among others. Tonight on the spot, we host Siima Gilbert Gift, Senior Curriculum Specialist, National Curriculum Development Center, and Professor Musa Matovu, Director Postgraduate Studies at the Islamic University in Uganda. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having honored our invitation. A warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let me begin with you, Siima Gift, because you come from the National Curriculum Development Center. We have a curriculum that we've been running since the colonial times. I know you have attempted, okay, you have not attempted, you have tried to change it, but why did it have to take this long for us to run a curriculum that I could say is archaic when the world had gone ahead of us?
Thank you very much, Patrick. Good evening, viewers. Yes, it's true the curriculum reform has taken long, and the length of time it has taken is partially weaved into the different situations that the country has gone through. You realize that we got independence 1962, and after that time we didn't see any problem with it, because it was okay, it was the best we could have at the moment. But shortly after that, we went into seasons of political instability after instability, and so on and so forth. So by the time the country stabilized, because reviewing a curriculum takes a lot of time, you can start on the process of soliciting input from stakeholders, get to know what they want, and then you process that. You do a number of consultations, and the stakeholders in education are quite many, from the students to the teachers to almost everyone in this country is a stakeholder. Now, by the time you go through that cycle, then you start the process of writing and quality checking, and then you get it out. It needs a lot of time. And because of that, we had not had a relatively long, stable period to enable us to do or carry out such a tedious task. And that's why we're able to do it this time around. And before that, we had some sessions of making adjustments here and there. For example, at the beginning, the subjects were not 43. When we felt that we needed entrepreneurship, we brought it on board. When we felt that we needed ICT, we brought it on board. But that also created other issues. For example, it led to some bit of overlaps and overload in the curriculum. So as a result, when time came, we said, no. Now we can no longer make adjustments, add in or remove. We just need a total overhaul. And the time, it's never too late.
So now we have a new curriculum for lower secondary education, and if you have to make an elevator pitch for it, what is it and why is it good?
If I am to pitch for it, the new lower secondary curriculum is competence-based. Competence, you can say it is skills-based. It is interested in what the learner can do as a result of going to school, as opposed to what the learner knows as a result of going to school.
So this is education to do as opposed to education to know?
Yes, it is.
So now, education to do as opposed to education to know, I suppose that will require a lot of, practical skills. Education has been liberalized. So schools are looking at breaking even, making profits. Are they ready to invest into education to do?
there is something I once read, that if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. We have reached a point when we cannot afford to invest in education to know, because we have so many people who have qualified, they have first-class degrees and so on, but they are not able to do. Yet when you go to the industry needs people who can do. They don't want you to know. So if we are to do education, education can never be expensive if it is leading you to what you really need.
Gift, my question is, education was liberalized.
Yes.
Many people have gone to education for them as a business. And when you give them a new curriculum that is practical,
yes,
skills based, probably it will require for them to invest more money into that sector. And they are looking at how they can actually get that profits out. Are you appreciating the fact that some of these schools may not be able to pull it off?
I appreciate the fact that we have majority of our schools across the country as private schools.
Yes.
And I appreciate that government schools also need these funds, either from government or otherwise, for them to run. But when it comes to practical education, what we are doing is we are emphasizing the use of locally available materials, the materials that we can easily access in our communities. For example, how much money do you need to get banana fibers from your plantation? Or how much money do you need to get a sample soil from somewhere? How much money do you need to get sisal if what you need is to display a skill in making? You know, we used to have handwork the time we went to school. Somehow, when it came to commercialization of education, some of these things kept falling away one by one. But at the end of the day, what products are we able to produce as a result of going to school? Just using the materials that are locally available to us. And do you know that technology is not only about using these machines and ICTs and computers. No, there is a technology that you need to use if you're preparing your kalo, if you're coming from Western Uganda. There is a technology there. Have we documented that technology? How are we enabling our population to make use of our indigenous knowledge, indigenous education, document it, but also use it in learning new concepts? Okay. Because you realize that the concepts are universal.
Professor,
what matters is
Professor
how you
Musa Matovu. Professor Musa Matovu, you are an educationist and you are passionate about education. We are giving our children a new curriculum. It's supposed to be taught by teachers. Have the teachers been retooled? Do they know how to carry out this?
Thank you very much, my host and the listeners outside there. The question is very big, and the question is, do we have the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart? But once things are set to move, it is when they move that we can determine a direction. Patrick, what I can rightly tell you, National Curriculum Development Center to come into this big exercise to review the curriculum, there was a dire problem in community, and which problem needed immediate attention. And then the question of saying that, do we have teachers, do we have, or have we trained the teachers first? That becomes a bit tricky.
Don't we need to retool them?
I think that is in the pipeline. But what I can give you right now, it is in the process. Because I think right now the government is setting up an independent institute that is going to be training teachers. I think he can talk more about it because it comes from the government side. That's the Uganda National Institute of Teachers Education. That is in the pipeline, and the new teacher policy that has been approved. So I think all those are dimensions that are going to retool teachers and put them into the proper direction.
But as you do that, the current students who are now in Senior 3 are actually on experiment. It's a Ugandan experiment.
So I can't say that it's
That's an experiment.
It's an experiment
because the teachers have not been prepared. Okay, I can understand something new. There are going to be baby steps. There are going to be teething problems. But we are also having a generation that's going to, well, suffer before we get it right.
So I can't say that the generation is going to suffer. We have been having a curriculum that we have been taking on all students, and I think that's what we have all gone through. What has been lacking in that curriculum are the skills. He has told us that we know a lot, but we can do less. But then the job market requires us to do much. And the job market itself has discriminated people who do not have skills. And that's why you hear that very many people do not have jobs. Actually, there might be a few jobs, but even those few jobs in the job market do not have people who have the requisite skills. I can give you an example. This is my general observation. I'm looking around all hotels around Uganda. They're having people from elsewhere.
That's when
we have institutions that train people in hotel management skills and all that, and even other sectors.
Actually, we have not been having those institutions.
We have people who do not have skills. And I think NCDC is coming up with that model that is going to have teachers who are going to train the students, as well as to have the students that have the right skills.
Explain to me, Professor Matovu, why is it that in most cases when a Ugandan student is admitted in some top universities in Europe or America, some cases this Ugandan will graduate on top of their class, and yet we have a curriculum that maybe is not good enough? I don't get it.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'll also relate it to what you asked Siima first. Actually, I studied out of this country for my postgraduate studies. And when I was in Malaysia, and we are with other members in different universities, but all members of our team during our period topped out to be the best students in their respective universities. So you are asking a question. We do not have a curriculum. We have a curriculum that is not adequate, as we might say.
And when you measure us with the best of the world, when a Ugandan student, take them whether it is MIT or Harvard or Malaysia,
yes,
chances are that they'll graduate on top of their class.
Actually, the curriculum we have right now consumes a lot of time and requires a lot, while at the end of it produces less. So I have known a lot of history. I have known Mirambo. I have known Zwagendaba. I have known the migrations in South Africa and wherever. That takes a lot of time. But then if I have a skill, I just need to know less. But it must be useful. I just need to create a very small app that I will sell to a very big telecommunication company. It puts it online. I earn my difference. I just think of an app and then I'll sit behind and earn. Even other skills, they require very little period of time. Let me tell you, for example, these people who go on to learn these skills like soap making, which other skills people have? Paper making, envelope making, carpentry. It cannot take 4 or 5 years doing that. Learning a skill of soap making will require you a period of 6 months. And then you go outside there, you do business and become a billionaire. I'll take 7 years, 6 years, and 3 years at the university, then I'll come out and I'm jobless.
So there's going to be, Siima, there's going to be an issue of assessment. Because if you are doing skills-based kind of education, it is the teacher at the school who will understand the potential and the abilities of this child. But when it comes to national, you're able to assess these children, how do you assess them?
Thank you. First of all, before I get to assessment, I need to put the record straight that we are not experimenting on our children. The teachers across the country have been trained more than once. We have had, I think, more than 2 rounds of teacher training on how to implement a competence-based curriculum. We went around the first round across the country. We've gone around the second round. We have also done some monitoring support to see.
Are you confident that's enough?
Yeah, it's not enough.
Okay.
It's not enough, and it is continuous. It has not yet ended. But before these teachers went into the classroom, some support, the in-service, some support was given to them, and we continue to give them support. Even the head teachers were later brought on board, and district education officers were brought on board on how to implement this curriculum, because we know that much as this curriculum requires the learner to do more, to be hands-on, we also cannot say that the teacher should be eyes off, hands off. No, the teacher also has a role to play to create that environment that will support the learner to do, that will enable the learner to carry or go through the learning activities up to the end. Now, from that to assessment. When you reform or change the curriculum, it goes hand in hand with the assessment. And while doing the curriculum reform, we did not do it as NCDC and shut out the rest of the stakeholders. No. Right from the start, we started with UNEB on board. We had a number of representatives from UNEB.
Uganda National Examinations Board.
Uganda National Examinations Board. And up to now, we still continue to work with UNEB to make sure that the assessment guidelines, because we could not do everything and have it out at once.
Kindly bring us to speed on how the assessment guidelines are going to be.
How the assessment is planned to be. It is planned that the teacher from the school does continuous assessment. Continuous assessment in that, Patrick, if you're carrying out an experiment, I am seeing how you are carrying it out. I am observing. I see the product that you have come up with. I ask you questions. How did you design this product? How did you come up with it? In that way, I am engaging you in a conversation. And in that conversation, I have observed what you have produced. I have engaged you in a conversation to really understand, did Patrick carry out this activity? Is he an authority in what he's doing? And then I look at the product, whether what I am seeing and the conversation that we have had both lead me to the product that you have come up with. Because remember, we are saying the learners are supposed to do. Now, when it comes to that, all that is recorded. We have...
And continuously channeled to UNEB?
Continuously, yes. Now, we have the record of what the learner has done at the end of every topic. This is competence-based in that it's not an issue of saying you have done a lesson on light and then you have done another lesson on, let's say, balancing beams, and then we are going to get them and do an average. No. The skill you have acquired in balancing beams might not necessarily be related to the skill that you have acquired in, let's say, preparing curved mirrors and using plain
light
mirrors.
or electricity or something like that.
Yes, or electrical installation. They might not be related. But what you're going to do is to say, Patrick did very well in electrical installation. We take that record. Patrick did not do very well in balancing beams. So we take a record of that.
So, Siima, so you seem to suggest that you have a lot of trust in the education system that is so liberalized that the teacher has so much integrity in this market-driven environment that they will send you results that are actually reflecting what is the actual potential of a child.
The work of the teacher has always been trusted because you allow this teacher to prepare this learner and bring them for assessment at the end of cycle. Who has been at the back of all that? It is the teacher. We have trusted this teacher right from the start.
Why do we have examiners and invigilators that we send to schools during exams? It's because we know we want to avoid malpractice, examination malpractice.
Yes.
And we know that there are some schools, by the way, sometimes exam results are withheld. Why? Because they're suspected to have involved in malpractice. So what, in a country where there's integrity deficit, what makes you think that these schools that are driven by money will not give you concocted results that are not reflecting the actual potential of a child in school?
You'll find that there are some methodologies that require the learner to keep record of what every step. I'm sure Professor will tell you the portfolio approach to learning. Even if you concoct, because at the end of the day, you are going to get all this that the learner has done over time and submit proof of what the learner has been doing.
So the learner's continuous assessment,
yes,
is it sent at once or continuously sent to UNEB so that they can keep track from senior and senior 4, for example?
We expect you to send what the learner has been doing over that period of time. That's why this curriculum came up with an innovation of saying we need to have a student identification number that identifies me as Gilbert, such that if my father, who is a civil servant, is transferred from Kampala to Kabarore, I go with my student identification number, and my results from Kampala can be accessed, but saying Gilbert, who was studying from this school in Kampala, has changed to a school in Kabarore, and is the same student because of the identification number.
So let me come into Professor Matovu, because I can imagine this innovation would require investment in technology and ICTs for the schools to be able to have that continuous engagement with UNEB. And a child is somewhere in Kinyankende primarily, somewhere in Kisoko Boys in Tororo, and perhaps there's no electricity, there are no computers. How do you keep engaging with UNEB? They're likely to run into trouble, won't they?
I don't see it, Patrick, I don't see it as a very big trouble, given the challenge this country wants to overcome. The process he has given you is the most adequate way of assessment. The assessment we've been having is really very disastrous. So a child who has studied for 4 years in his ordinary level, he gets to the last exam, his final exam, where they ask him about the Ngoni migration. And he misfires one question, and that misfiring totally kills his life. That one exam for 3 hours kills his life. But the aspect of continuous assessment gives a track of this student. Maybe when it came to the time of exam, the student fell sick and did not really attend to the questions very well. So this student will have something at the back that is going to be added on his results.
Professor, I appreciate that. My problem is the integrity part of it in a market-driven education system for Uganda. Whenever results are released, you'd see the crazy that happens in Kampala when sometimes even headmasters bring their children to media houses, say, this one performed like this. Do you know why? Because they want to project themselves. They're making a charm offensive to Uganda that we are the best among the best, so bring more and we'll make money.
So I think the issue of
My
trust,
issue there is the integrity, the trust.
The issue of trust and integrity, that must be packaged of the whole system. How are we going to make our teachers responsible and know that what they are handling is not just a simple matter? And I think in this education system we are going to come up with of teacher training, the value aspect is supposed to be key into that. Like how we have people keeping funds elsewhere, they are keeping other aspects in schools. Why don't they get lost? So if we cannot lose a school track, if we cannot lose school books? Why do we lose marks? So that issue of integrity must be part of the package. Like how we have problems elsewhere, we do away with those people and then have new people. So if we have a teacher who does that, I think we have rules and regulations or the teacher's code of conduct. So he's acted upon depending on the teacher's code of conduct.
So you've touched on something very fundamental in my view, and that's the issue of values. So in the training the Ugandan student or Ugandan pupils, isn't it proper that at the elementary level begin with values, elements of trust, elements of integrity, elements of respect, the environment, the elders? Because when you raise a child who has studied more of values at a lower level as opposed to algebra and all that, perhaps you're going to have a society that is based on values. But at the moment, I think that's our challenge, Professor.
Yes. When we talk about...
How do we train, how do we inculcate values in our education system so that it becomes part of the learning?
This new curriculum that basically talks about the skills, we have both the hard skills and the soft skills. When we talk about the hard skills, this is the knowledge we study. And then the soft skills make us excel in those areas where we have got knowledge. For example, if a person learns carpentry, it would be very, very important that this person learns self-management, gets the real values, that if I make a chair, if a person orders for a chair made of mahogany, it should be mahogany, not any other wood that is sprayed as part of the values. Then also we must have the entrepreneurial skills, also must have customer respect, and all that as a package in the new curriculum. So I believe that also the new curriculum has part of the value-driven education, because one of the aspects in the new curriculum is having a curriculum that is Africanized, that is having our values, that is having our beliefs, and that is embedded within our society. So what do the societies want is what the education system is providing.
You're kind of trying to decolonize the curriculum system, right?
Very good.
So in trying to decolonize and embedding our values and all that, remember, you also want to stay, you know, relevant on the global scale. When that tilts the balance, Gift.
No, it doesn't. Because if you also try to lean more to the global scale, you lose your society. Because a student that is trained in Uganda should be expected to function in Uganda. Now, if you train someone for the global scale and you do not pay attention to the need within the society where this child is expected to operate, then that curriculum is not helping us. When you are developing a curriculum, you first look at what does society need? And that drives you. It drives you on where you're going and what you need to package. Because if you are training basically for the global stage, that also, we have to strike a balance between what the global stage expects, but most importantly, what we need as a country. And maybe just before we switch, you asked the issue of values of the teachers. One thing we need to understand is what really drives people to engage in malpractice. What is it? It's because the system has glorified marks over what the learner can do. That's why going forward, we are saying no, we need to glorify what the learner can do over the marks, such that if you can make a chair, we are going to say the quality of your chair is good, and there is no shortcut to that. You must have picked that plumb line, picked that whichever tools, you must have used them right in order to come up with the best chair. There is no shortcut. So we know and we believe that with time, the idea of glorifying marks, my school was the best, my child was the best, that story is expected to change.
Okay,
let me. I have produced the best chair. It is here. I have produced the best soap, liquid soap. It is here. It does this, it does this, it does that. And that's the way to go.
Let me come to you, Professor. You're a teacher. And, you know, many people have said that our golden era of education was in the 70s and 60s. That whoever graduated then, even if it was junior or secondary, they were good enough, perhaps even better than a university graduate of today. And actually, some people were saying that our problem in Uganda is not only unemployment, but we're also having graduates who are unemployable. You're a teacher, you're a professor at the university. What happened?
I would like Patrick to inform you that the job market is like any other market. If I'm producing some commodities home that are not worthy the market, when I take them out to the market, they will not buy them. If I produce quality products, even if I don't take them to the market, people will come for them. The market has read and has seen that some of the graduates who are outside there are unemployable, and they will not employ them because the market is business driven. So that's why we are seeing we are having very many graduates who are looking for jobs. But also in almost everyday newspapers, we are having jobs being advertised. And some jobs are re-advertised. People apply but do not have the requisite skills.
Okay.
So the issue is,
even if you just take a pause on the requisite skills, technical skills, there are issues of attitude, issues of routine work, issues as simple as grammar, you know, that sometimes are lacking in the people who have gone through universities with impeccable credentials.
those are the soft skills I talked about. People have degrees but lack soft skills. Skills of self-management, skills of cooperation, skills of negotiation.
So
And they cannot
the
stay with others
curriculum
at
we've been
place of
having
work.
for quite some time, until at one point, was working well, was giving us all those skills. Actually, giving us those skills even at a lower level of education. Where did we drop it? When did we drop that?
Patrick,
Yes.
This has been discussed, and for us teachers, when we are studying the history of curriculum in Uganda, some of the key aspects which are usually mentioned are the two kinds of curricula that were used during the colonial times. So we had a curricula for the whites, and then we had the curricula for the natives. So when these people shifted to go back to their countries, they gave us independence, they gave us the power, we took over power. They added over, they gave us our land, which they had taken before. But they didn't hand over the other part of the curriculum, which was taught to the whites. Actually, they gave us the education system which we had. And the separation of the two curricula that was given to the whites, it provided them with critical thinking, it provided them with creative thinking, innovations, creative leadership, and in that direction. And then the curriculum for the blacks was to do management and maintain the whites in
Secretary
power.
and clerks.
Secretaries and clerks to maintain them in power. So even when they went away and went home, we have remained with the fear for over 50 years.
So now
that without them, we can't exist.
So, Mr. Siima, education is also funded by international development partners. And I'm sure they also have their own interests. So when you introduce this new curriculum that perhaps could tilt the balance, are you also appreciating the fact that you could find yourselves in a collusion course with the would-be partners in development?
Yes, but we are not worried of that, Patrick. If I can just first pick something small from Professor's explanation. You're saying our education of the 1970s was very good. But the truth is, what these learners of the 70s were able to do as a result of attending school is what the society in Uganda needed at that time. For example, it was very good because when a child went to school and returned home, knew that there was a need to build a granary, put up a granary, and that solved a problem in society because it ensured food security. The child knew that one, the positioning of the toilet had to be this number of meters from the main house, because that's what they learned in science. And because of that, he advised and said, let's position it here. And because of that, we reduced on the number of diseases that were affecting us. Therefore, someone had gone to school and was solving problems, which were societal. It also required them, they learned that when you go back home, when you wash plates, don't throw them on the ground. You create a small structure,
drying rack,
where you can dry
rack,
them,
yes.
a drying rack. And they were able to do that. And them being able to prepare a drying rack solved a societal problem at that time. Right now, the problems of society have shifted. Those are no longer problems.
Some of those things, probably they are not even driven by children who have been exposed to education, but by a system at a lower level.
Yes.
Of Mayumba Kumi,
Yes.
of the Muluka parish chief, of the health inspector, of the Gomborela chief.
Yes.
That if he came to visit, you must have had all these things.
Exactly.
And so there was a government functioning at the lowest level of society. At the moment, perhaps it's not there. It's
Yes.
absent. It's
And
absent.
But Patrick, that is education. Education does not necessarily mean that you have to go to school and sit facing the blackboard. No. There was some form of education, whether it was through the chiefs or by going to school or otherwise. It was education. And that education solved problems in the society.
Okay.
Now, coming to this one now, we realize that our problems have shifted. So we need to shift and come up with an education that solves our problems.
Siima Gilbert Gift and Professor Musa Matovu, gentlemen, hold on your points because you're going to take a break on the spot. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guests tonight are Siima Gilbert Gift from National Curriculum Development Center and Professor Musa Matovu, Director Postgraduate Studies at the Islamic University. And we're discussing the new curriculum in Uganda. You know, sometimes, Professor, people are reluctant to take on something that is new. Do you think when you move around, has it been embraced, the new curriculum? Or there are those who are still sitting on the fence and perhaps still in denial, even trying to fight it?
Patrick, that might be a longer discussion, but I might say that people are ready and they might not be ready. I might say that they are ready because it's a government policy right now. So the government has put it rightly that this is the curriculum, for example.
This is the way to go.
For the lower secondary, and I think very soon for advanced level, which is coming out most probably a year to come. It's a government policy. But then there are those people that believe that what has been there is right. Okay, they are also right in their own way. Whereas there are those people who have understood and they believe that we can change. One key element I'm seeing here is a buy-in from all stakeholders. So now National Curriculum Development Center is at the center. We must have a buy-in for all people to understand the issue in the same way.
You know, that buy-in,
which I think National Curriculum Development Center has started. I think it has just had its
the
conference.
best buy-in is when we start seeing the Gilberts of this world, the top-notch Ugandans, taking their children to study the Ugandan curriculum. What is happening now?
Very good.
What is happening now is that for those who are managing the affairs of our education, and perhaps they are managing the affairs of our country,
and are highly placed,
and are highly placed, and they are taking decisions for us, their children are not studying our curriculum. How do I buy into that?
So that's the most.
Where do I get the trust?
So that's the most critical thing, Patrick. That buy-in has to come in to see that everyone gets on board. And we see Patrick, his son, going to one of the schools, his son going to one of the schools, and everyone's son, and even of the big notch.
My son goes to Ndeje, and I'm very happy with Ndeje SS. So
my children are attending the local curriculum, all of them. And when it comes to the issue of buy-in, Patrick, everything that you've mentioned has happened. I can share with you that the first time we moved out to bring the teachers, in-service teachers, on board, the turn-up was very low. Some actually assumed that what we were bringing, they had the ability to implement. And what has changed in that curriculum is not necessarily the content, but in some subjects, what has changed is the method of delivery, what we call methodology. So at first they said, no, this one we can handle. And they didn't turn up. So when we sent out the books and told them, start, they said, no, please come and help us. We don't understand these things. And the second round of teacher capacity development, we got a very high turn-up that we didn't have where to put a number of participants. That alone shows that the stage of resistance, we seem to be going past that. Yes, we know that there are some people who are still resisting, but majority are saying, wait a minute, this is the way to go. We have had so many people calling back to appreciate that this has been timely, and we have had meetings with the university vice chancellors and deans of schools of education. We have tried to reach out to as many stakeholders as possible, and the message we are getting now, yes, at the beginning it was different, but what we are getting now shows that people are buying into this curriculum, they are in for it, and they are supporting it.
So one of the things that is key is also to develop the co-curricula, right? Games and sports and stuff like that. But you realize that some schools, you know, people have turned commercial buildings that were meant for something else into schools. Hardly no playground. There's no even, you know, area where children can exercise. Now, how do you develop the co-curricular abilities of these children studying in such environment? And these are very many schools of that nature, Professor Matovu.
When we talk about education and what most schools have today, and in the past curriculum we've been having, it has been that writing down an essay is the only component of education. And that's the total life of a student or of a child, that when he leaves school, he will only write down receipts and things of that nature. But the new curriculum has gone beyond that. That as part of the child, there's self-discovery. As much as we have provided several skills, a child must select a skill he can do best. Yes. These might be in the hard skills or the soft skills or the co-curricular activities. for example, sports and so on. So I think there's need for an intervention for such schools that might not be able to provide activities that lead to a whole development of a child. Because that's the package the new curriculum is coming up with.
Yeah, and I'm so worried about the area of co-curricular because it's so key. It's very, very important.
It's very important. It's very, very important. And we have seen now, for example, in Europe, the way sportsmen earn, actually, you can't, anybody in office cannot earn
even
that.
if you don't reach the level of earning through sports, there's a way how sports will give you a certain discipline.
And also having
understanding
good health,
accepting defeat, accepting defeat, to know there is a loser and the winner.
And the winner.
And, you know, like in tennis, you even shake your hand, the hands of somebody after playing your tennis, whether you have lost or not. They actually even hug, because those things,
their coaches.
Yes, those skills will help you in society. But we don't have where the children are going to exercise this.
But you see, Patrick, we are talking about a transition from a system that has been focused on writing an essay and you are the best, to a system that says writing an essay is not all that you have to do. You have to do something else. And because of the system that we have been into, if you look into the statistics, you'll find that the number of children suffering from obesity has been on the rise. Why? Because they sit in a car from home to school. When they reach school, they sit from morning up to late in the evening, writing, and then again they are picked from school, they go back home, and the best they can do is to sleep. And that has another impact on them, that the brain development of this child is getting affected, because the brain, like any other part of the body, grows or develops when it is put to task.
Okay.
So our students who are not engaging in any form of physical activity are losing out, because the brain needs that gap to switch in order for it to grow, and you develop your attention span and the rest of other abilities that come with it.
So, Professor Matovu, what do we do for the Ugandan child in a lower primary who is stressed, who is tired, almost depressed? They are made to wake up at 4 a.m., at 5 a.m. or 5:30. For those who are in urban areas and they have a car or a border, they are getting into the car, they are driving them to school. When they are sleeping, sometimes they are dozing in school, and then they are dropped. Sometimes some schools say they should be there by 7. So in other words, the child will wake up at 5 or earlier. No, the parent will be on the road at 6:30. 6:45 they are in school. And then they will come back carrying a luggage of books that's about to break their backs. The Ugandan child is stressed, is depressed, is not enjoying the primary education. What do you do for them?
So actually, that is, I think, by NCDC, they are soon coming to that. Their first attention went to lower secondary. Now they are in high school, and I think their next transition is to the primary curriculum.
Yes.
I think those are some of the things that have to be tackled. For example, in early school, which we call kindergarten.
Yes.
Now they call it early childhood development centers or something like that. There is need for total hauling of that system. You find that also children in kindergarten have to come to school and leave at 4 p.m. Early learning in children is totally playing. They learn by playing and socialization. That's basically their learning. But you find them writing a lot of notes, and even they give them work to come back and do it with the parents home. So they don't have that time of interaction and play. So I believe that we need also to overhaul the system in primary education and in early childhood education.
We have a new primary, something called thematic curriculum?
We have the thematic curriculum.
So it is about 16, it's about maybe less than 20 years since you introduced thematic curriculum for primary.
Under normal circumstances, a curriculum is supposed to change every after 5 years.
Okay.
And thematic has been in place for more than that time. But what I can share with you is we've been having the first international curriculum conference at Munyonyo, which has ended today.
Oh, yes.
And the First Lady, our minister, was there with us yesterday, and she was involved. There are some critical announcements that she made, if I can share this information.
Okay.
One, she said, we have overhauled the lower secondary. Work on adjusting the A level has already started. And she also communicated saying that she has cleared work to review the primary curriculum to start. So we expect that to start. It can even be next financial year, which is a few months from now. So the idea is to make sure that we have a synergy right from primary or early childhood
development
going all the way up to A level when they can speak to one another. Now, what has happened at lower secondary, you realize that there has been a change in the time the learner is expected to be in class. From 8 up to 250. So if the child at lower secondary is learning from 8 up to 250, you can imagine what is likely to happen at primary and maybe at A level. Because we also have to consider a number of other factors, including the attention span of these children, which increases with age. When you come back to the issue of sports, participating in sports and club activities and so on, you realize that from 250 up to 5, learners are expected to be engaged in activities that are fun but enabling them to learn. Some of them are club activities. That's when they are going to be involved in sports, games and sports. That's when they're supposed to be engaged in debates. That's when they're supposed to be doing their project work. All that time is for them to engage in such activities which help them build their hands-on skills. And also you realize that in the lower secondary, we have physical education as a compulsory subject. Because work without play, anyone can complete that. Makes Jack or Jill or whoever a dull boy. We have so many brilliant dull boys in Uganda. And this curriculum is to help anyone who goes through it not to be a dull boy or a dull girl. We need people who are active. And that's why physical education is compulsory. And it is going to be examinable at the end of Senior 4. So efforts are underway to make sure that
you are suggesting, or you're trying to imagine that the secondary schools or primary schools that are in private hands actually have where those children are going to exercise themselves and do physical education comfortably.
No.
In some cases, there is no space even to do that.
Patrick,
I know you know
if I
that.
licensed you early and you had no pitch and it was not a requirement, it's okay. When things change and it is a requirement for you to engage your learners in physical activity. By the way, some of these physical activities that are supposed to be engaged in, apart from football, the rest might not require all
big
that
space.
much big space. Because for you to, when you go to the gym, how big is the gym? But don't you work out, don't you engage in enough physical activity in the gym? It can be as big as this room or even smaller. But depending on the activities you carry out in that place, it is sufficient. So I'm sure a number of schools are going to try and see how to
Table tennis and things like
the
that.
space that they have.
Table
Yes,
tennis,
there are
lawn
some
tennis,
indoor games. Apparently, they didn't have space, but now there is space for them. So they can start from what is feasible and progressively graduate to those activities which need more space.
There was an issue in in the performance of biology, for example, in the last year, both at the A level and O level. And I'm trying to think why. Maybe one of the reasons could be because of the practical requirements of handling biology. Some schools may not be able to manage, because the specimens you're going to use are not reusable, like maybe in physics or chemistry. You want a rat, you'll have to get it. You want a tomato or something like that. So some schools will find it expensive to buy the requirements of a practical lesson for biology as opposed to the others. So they will try to avoid. So if you see why students were failing, partly one of them, the reason is because they don't have the practical part, because of the expense involved. But now this new curriculum is actually going to increase the expenses involved. I'm going back to that. Are we likely to see, for example, you giving the school directors and owners a shot in the arm so that they can be able to?
Maybe I might come in here, Patrick. Where there is education, there is a cost.
True.
And usually there is a saying that if education is expensive, you try ignorance. I believe that if, like how now the president and in his initiatives is talking about the sciences, because biology is one of the core sciences, we must have the means of funding. Because this is a core science. I don't know how the funding can be. For example, government can come in to support this, because if a person does biology at A level, he's likely to do the biological sciences, medicine, biochemistry, and things related to health. I think the government can come in to subsidize some of the things or provide them to these schools, like how it can support some schools in one way or the other that are supporting the community and really attending to the same cause, because we might have no shortcut. Or we might advise schools accordingly. Sometimes what might bring a problem is having unmanageable numbers of students. You have so many students, that means you require very many reagents, very many aspects for practicals. We say that if you have these resources as a school, then you can only admit these numbers in the science subjects. You have 2 microscopes, you have 2 burettes and pipettes. You can only admit 5 students in the biology class. But then you find that they have a few equipment, but bring in so many. So I think we need to have a policy to regulate as that regard.
Okay, Professor Musa Matovu and Mr. Gilbert Siima Gift, gentlemen, hold on to your points, because we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's going to be a moment for you, the viewer, to have your say. You can send us your questions or your comments on our social media lines, and then I'll be able to read those comments or questions for my guests to be able to respond to you. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guests tonight are Siima Gilbert Gift from the National Curriculum Development Center and Professor Matovu Musa from the Uganda Islamic University in Uganda, and we're discussing the new curriculum. But I've heard, Siima, that there's now a possibility somebody in HSC could actually study for 5 years. Well, and some people are like, what? That you can do it for 5 years? So exactly what's this, if you can make a clarification? I know maybe that was misunderstood.
Okay, and rightly so it was misunderstood, because right now in HSC, you find that if I have done, for example, PEM as an example, physics, economics, and mathematics, and I get an A in physics, an A in economics, and mathematics, I get an E. And you're not happy with that E. If you are to redo it, you go back and do the
PEM
entire
again.
PEM. Meaning that, and the chances of doing PEM again and you get CCC are high. So the new proposal is, okay, if Gilbert has done PEM and scored A, B, and E, can you give him 2 more years to keep these 2 A's in the bank and make up the E, such that at the end of it all, we consider them together for intake.
So in other
for the
words,
next level.
to repeat and only do the subject that you failed.
Yes.
So in other words, like a retake in the university
Yes.
system.
Yes, just more or less the same. That's it.
I think that's a good idea, because it is also very possible that you can get an A in mathematics and if an A in physics. If you fail economics and you repeat, you're not guaranteed that you're going to get an A again.
Yes.
You can actually fail miserably.
Actually, this new system is a bit simplified, and actually they have introduced even access exams to universities, that if you do not get the right grades, you can do a higher education certificate by National Council, which is provided by other universities, and then you can do again a program. So it is making learning easier, not making it harder as people would have thought.
And what is the 5 years? You give somebody a chance of like 3 more years to keep trying.
Up to 5 years.
Up to 5 years.
Up to 5 years. But if I can do it in 2 years and I'm done, it's okay, you continue. But you have up to 5 years to make use.
To deal with a subject that has caused you trouble.
Yes. So that's the idea behind. And you realize that, for example, those of us who have gone through this system, me going through the system and I get very good grades, does not mean that in the next 2-3 years I will have forgotten or will not be able to do what I did earlier. So why should it be so difficult that I cannot make use of the grades I attained in the last 2 years? So that's the idea behind.
So let me also, now that you're a professor at the university, why do we have to see some universities coming with their ideas of the pre-entry exams? Now I'm told it's even beginning the medical school, the university for the law school pre-entry. It's as if we have totally now ignored the foundation that has been built. Why do people have to sit national exams?
Actually, that one I might not comment on it, because in my university we do not have pre-entry exams. I don't know where other universities get the mandate to examine students who have been examined by
a national examination center,
an accredited body. So for us at our university, we basically use results from UNEP to admit for the nationals, and then international students from their national bodies. But that practice is there. They provide entry exams. Maybe I might just think that maybe lack of trust.
A vote of no confidence in the education system,
in
right?
the education system. That
again, touching on issues of integrity, of trust. I have AAA, but are you really the one who got this AAA?
Exactly, and I think that might be the basis, because I might also not be an authority on this matter, but those who have conducted pre-entry exams before will share with you and tell you that there is a professor I had a chat with some time back, and she was telling me that in most cases, the students who have scored maximum points, when they do a pre-entry, you find that those who scored medium, intermediate points, they come on top. Because at the university, what they want, the skills they want, the issue is, do you have them? So if someone has been taught to the test,
to pass an exam.
Now that comes back to the reason we are reforming curricula, is that when you have been taught to the test to just pass an exam, it does not take you far. It is important that the main reason we go to schools is to learn. not to pass exams. So when the system goes to passing exams, then pre-entry exams come in. Because at the university, they need to know, have you been groomed in such a way that you can take on this course? What shows? So like you're saying, there is another message that is being communicated there when the pre-entry exams keep coming and they are scaling them up.
So why, for example, when we were in school back in the day, we do a lot of handwork. I remember some of us who went to these rural schools, you'd walk about 7 kilometers to go and find where you're getting the materials to use, whatever you want to do, and then you walk 7 kilometers to school, from there then walk home, and you carry your thing. You know, every week there will be a day dedicated for handwork. But now, not even rural schools no longer do handwork.
So that is being driven by the desire to score 4 in 4 subjects, 8 in 8, and triple A. So when the time you're going, you realize that actually it's the risk. When I joined secondary school, my school, we did not have evening prep, we did not have morning prep. It was an issue of you go and study during the day, and once at 5 you go to the playground, play all the way up to evening, come take your dinner and sleep. And we never failed. If anything, our head teacher encouraged us. When you were in like senior 4, he would tell you, my dear boys, you've read enough. You go and play. Senior 4s, it was a culture to have the soccer gala and senior 4s,
yes,
just before the exams. So, but now, because of the desire to get the triple A's and so on, that's why people teach during early morning, during prep, over the weekend, and that, at the end of the day, is not giving us the skills that the society needs. So that's why the reform is coming in to say, we are changing the time you're supposed to teach, we are changing the nature of assessment, we are changing quite a number of things, such that you're able to get back into that person that the society needs, such that we all benefit.
So what I'm trying to see here is that you are trying to make education fun, lively, but also impactful, right?
And relevant. And relevant to its communities. For example, like what he has been saying, that the basic knowledge these people would have learned immediate and actually useful to community, we have thrown it away. And we have committed all the other time, like how you said you used to make crafts, you used to make baskets, you used to make brooms. These are the commodities that were needed in the community by then. But then all that time,
actually,
that was used...
Actually, at the end of the term, the school would do sort of display whatever it is, exhibit, and then the parents would come and buy.
Even come and buy, and even the school gets money. Now you hear these schools, every school is saying it doesn't have money, but then they have a community that has rich resources, which they can make and sell to parents and have money as well. So we have committed our time to things that might not be very useful and left out things that would be very important to us. So
I'm going to be reading the comments and the questions coming in from our viewers tonight. But as we do that, do you, Siima, because now this is right in your docket, so far, is it working?
Right now, it is working wonders, actually, because the parents, the testimonies we've had from parents show that when these students go back to their homes, there is something they are able to do, which previously was either impossible, or they are able to address some need, either at the level of a home or at the level of a community, and the parents are finding the results from their parents, from the learners, different, because now they have learners who are able to identify something that needs to be done, either at home.
I want you to be able to look direct in the eyes of those people who are asking questions, because now I have views coming in from our viewers tonight. And let me begin with somebody who says, good evening, Patrick. I'm Biamukama Pade from Karugutu Town Council in Toroko District. I'm always happy for the topics of your programs on the spot. My concern is that all the teachers conversant with all the methodologies involved in the new curriculum our country is trying to impress. What about pre-secondary? Is the syllabus compatible with the new curriculum in post-primary? Because I thought there is an element of complementary. Let the professor elaborate to that for our country. Professor, could you go for that? Or before you do that, let me also pick maybe a little more, and then you can just look at them direct in the eyes and respond. Hello, Mr. Kamara, pose that question to your panelists. Why is it that S3 students paid 80,000 for registration? How is it that registration is different from that of senior 4 for next year? And new curriculum teachers didn't get enough training about new curriculum, especially teachers in deep villages. This is from Sayo Nazarias in Imbarara City. Thank you, Sayo. And somebody says, thank you. Extracurricular activities should now be called specials. I also think specialists should be facilitators in this case, not only the classroom teachers. Does the new curriculum accommodate this? Nathan Emong in Dubai. Thank you, Nathan. The learners and teachers' books are not yet out, yet learners are already in S3 and going for term 2. It seems the government wasn't ready for this curriculum because there is some content that was removed. So we need to know, as teachers, which content should we really teach? And thank you for the show. May you give me light on how the exams at S4 will be set of the new curriculum and also the DIT exams. This is on the very happy to see you guys. I'm so worried being one of the new curriculum. I don't know how our UNEB will look like. Teacher looks so relaxed. And maybe we could go for those. Professor, please take them on.
Thank you very much. Our viewers who have taken their time to give us their questions. I'll attend to some, and then the others, one or two, and then the others will be attended to by my colleague from National Curriculum Development Center. The issue of teaching and methodology, that is an ongoing process. Like how Mr. Siima explained to us, he said that they have gone in 2 phases of primary training and the retooling of teachers at various levels. I think this is going to be an ongoing process with the various skills that would be required to be given to the teachers every now and again. So I think that should not be a problem now. That can be done on the job, as well as those people who will come in as new graduates will come with a full package of what would be required. I think that's my only question. The others...
Okay. Take them on, Gift.
Okay, quickly, the primary curriculum was changed in 2007. Actually, the rollout started in 2007 and ended in 2012. But like I shared, it's more than 5 years since 2007. That's why the Minister of Education and First Lady yesterday announced to the nation that the review of primary curriculum is going to start to align it with the O-level, lower secondary. We had to start from lower secondary because lower secondary had never been touched, and the concerns were overwhelming compared to the primary. So I hope I've taken care of that. Then the registration of 80K, that question...
Actually, it's 80,000.
80,000.
You know, now the students are also writing emojis and what?
Yes, they are writing emojis and Ks and whatever. But the 80,000 Uganda shillings registration, I think that question I am not competent enough to handle it, because I think that goes to Directorate of Industrial Training, which is outside my jurisdiction. Then the issue of training, Professor, has ably handled it. But what I can add on is training and capacity development of teachers is not a one-off. It has to continue. Actually, according to our plan, we estimate that it should continue for more than 5 years. So that is still an ongoing process, and we hope as part of celebrating our 50 years in existence, we shall reach out to a few of you and do a little bit more than what was done earlier under our corporate social responsibility. Then the specialists to be part, yes, we continue to be part, but as much as possible, we would love the teachers to pick it and run with it. So what we do, our involvement is we come to the teachers, guide them on how it can be done, and then we would love to see them pick it and run with it. Then we do monitoring and support, such that we do not become the only people who have the knowledge, yet the teachers are the actual implementers in the field. Then how will there was a question about books. Books not being ready, yes, we are aware of that. There was a challenge, but now I can assure you that the distribution of books has started. So that one in a little while should be a problem solved. How will the exams look like? When we are training the teachers, and what we've been going through, we guided the teachers on the activity of integration. So the assessment, you expect a scenario-based assessment. It's not an issue of you memorizing, but how good are you at making use of the knowledge you have acquired in the classroom and applying it in the different scenarios that will be posed to you. So I think that's all that I had to answer.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. You've been phenomenal in trying to make us understand the new curriculum. And let me also again ask you to give us your parting shot gift.
My parting shot is that I thank all the teachers who have been part of the curriculum implementation, all the national trainers, all the teacher trainers, and those who have worked with us as we celebrate 50 years of existence. Going forward, we still have more activities. We will be concluding the celebration of 50 years of NCDC on the 30th of June. We shall be letting you know of a few more activities that will be coming our way through our social media, through the media like NTV and other media houses. But by and large, we are grateful that you have been part of us and you have worked with us, and we'd love to continue working with you as we celebrate 50 years of existence as NCDC. Thank you so much. And Professor, your parting shot?
First of all, I would like to first thank our viewers who have been with us since the beginning of this program. Then also, I would just like to make all our viewers and people outside there to feel comfortable that the curriculum we are having right now, we are in the right direction. It has taken long, but better late than never. We hope for the best. Thank you so much. We are ending on a very optimistic note. Better late than never, and that we are in the right direction. As you have heard from Siima, they are celebrating 50 years of National Curriculum Development Center. That's quite a milestone, and they want to believe that this new curriculum is trying to decolonize the curriculum that was given to us by the British in 1962 before they left. Sometimes I wonder, why did we have to spend a lot of time reading about the prairies and Saskatchewan, here the Prussian War, the Bismarcks of this world, and they brought us back Saidi, you remember Nyungu Yamao, Minambo, the Anglo-Boer War, all those things we kept on pumping them in our minds and thinking we are so big, but yet they are not even helping us. So I think we needed this change like yesterday, and thank God it's coming. Good night and God bless Uganda.